Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa usalli wa usallim ala rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in, amma ba'd. So tonight inshallah we're going to continue with the next chapter, and that is the chapter of the method of performing wudhu. The method of performing wudhu. So the Shaykh says, Babu Sifatil Wudhu, the chapter of the manner of performing wudhu. So here the Shaykh says the manner of performing wudhu. So the fuqaha sometimes they mention wajibat and then sunan and at certain points they mention the entire ibadah. In this case wudhu. Therefore what we're going to mention includes the sunan and includes the fara'id. And thereafter the Shaykh mentions, he breaks down in summary what are the fara'id. Meaning a person who leaves out the fara'id, their wudhu is invalid. Their wudhu is invalid. Generally the fuqaha here call the fara'id, call the main aspects of wudhu, they call it a fard. They referring to it what would equal in other chapters a pillar. Meaning if you left it out, the ibadah is completely invalid. There's no way to make up for it. You have to repeat the wudhu. And therefore a person, if he does the sunan and the fara'id, that will be a complete wudhu. Where if he does more than the sunan, then this, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, وَمَنْ زَادَ عَلَى هَذَا فَقَدْ أَسَاءَ. Whoever does more than this, then he has done something wrong. So therefore, doing more than a sunnah is something that is not suggested to do. So the Shaykh says, وَهُوَ أَنْ يَنْوِي رَفْعَ الْحَدَثِ أَوِ الْوُضُوءَ لِلصَّلَاةِ وَنَحْوِهَا. So the Shaykh says the first thing you do when it comes to the wudu is to have the intention. Because the intention is needed for all types of ibadat. Intention is needed for the ibadah to be valid and also for a person to get reward. And that is, the Shaykh is going to mention it just now. The Shaykh says, the next line, وَالنِّيَّةُ شَرْطٌ لِجَمِيعِ الْأَعْمَالِ مِنْ طَهَارَ وَغَيْرِهَا. That the intention is a stipulation for all ibadat, whether it's tahara or other than tahara. So therefore, in most ibadat, you need an intention for the ibadah to be valid, and therefore, as a result of that, to get reward if you did the ibadah correctly with sincerity, and the more reward according to the better you did it according to the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And then in other actions, you don't need an intention when they are not directly ibadat, like transacting. And therefore, you don't need the intention, but you would get reward for an intention, because you intended when you did the transaction to carry it out in a specific manner, and that manner is the manner that Islam guided us to. Then you'd get the reward for the action. So if you didn't have any religious intention when doing the transaction, it wouldn't affect the validity of the transaction compared to ibadat. So in fact, it seems like I'm starting with line 3 and then we're going to come back, because it's all about intention. And then the Shaykh says that intention is a stipulation for all actions. That's why we mentioned you don't need intention for removing impurity, because the fuqaha do not deem removing impurity as an action. They deeming it as min babi turuk. So it's something that you don't need to have an intention for. There's a third thing which is called kaf, but we'll touch on that another time inshallah. It's more linked to usul. So you have an intention. So what is an intention? Intention is something very simple. That's why there's barely a hadith that deal with intention. There's not many hadith. There's one main hadith that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that actions are by intentions. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَى. Actions are merely by intentions, and what a person intends, that's how his actions would be based on. What he intends rotates how the action must be something that is legislated, obviously. A person can't do some action that Islam does not approve and then he says, my intention was good. Not like that. It's an action. Which action is referred to in the hadith? The action that is approved by Islam. So it's important to know that. Therefore, that's like the main hadith that comes with regards to intention. So intention, the fuqaha say, النية تبع للعلم. Intention is the result or follows being aware of what you're doing. So if you are performing wudhu, you know that this is wudhu, you know this is salah, you know this is the action, you know that what is the result of wudhu. You know wudhu is something that allows you to do an ibadah that you're not allowed to do without wudhu. So that is what the Shaykh is going to mention when he says to intend raf al hadath. The intention is to remove the hadath. So what does that mean? It means that you know that this wudhu allows you to do an ibadah that you couldn't do without wudhu. And how is this intention? It's merely being cognizant of you wanting to do the action. So you've stood up to go to the bathroom. You may not do wudhu directly. You may use the toilet or something, or wash something off, and thereafter perform wudhu. You don't need to be cognizant at that moment of wudhu about wudhu. It's okay if you didn't, but we'd ask you, why did you go to the bathroom? Why did you leave the house at 12:30 p.m.? You say, for salatul dhuhr. Why do you enter the mosque at this time? For salah. If you perform wudhu in the middle of the morning, you may be cognizant in your head that I may be out of the house, or I may be somewhere that salah will come in. I won't be able to perform wudhu. So you know these things in your head, they come in naturally. That's the intention. That's why in fasting, what did we mention? We mentioned that suhoor is intention. Because you're eating this meal. Why would you eat a meal at night, in the middle of the night, if you're not going to fast? So therefore, that is enough as an intention. That is enough as an intention. Therefore, the place of intention is where? It is in the heart. The place of intention is in the heart. Therefore, the fuqaha say that intention does not need to be articulated. Some recommend articulating the intention, but softly. Articulating the intention, but softly. And if you were to voice your intention, where you can now hear yourself, and worse, if somebody else can hear you, then here they say this is not mashru', this is not something that is recommended, this is not something that should be done. This is not something that should be done. They allow, some of them deem it mustahab, not sunnah, but mustahab. There's a difference between the two. Another time we'll mention it. Some deem it mustahab to articulate the intention, but softly. So softly, there's scope for it. Loud, don't do, but the place of intention is in the heart. Therefore, if your place of intention is in the heart, if you articulated something by mistake against what you actually intended in your heart, the ibadah will be valid. The ibadah will be valid. So you entered the mosque for salatul dhuhr, for example, and you were thinking in your head, did I pray asr yesterday? So a person decided he's going to articulate the intention, and he articulated, or he told somebody, I'm going to pray asr, for example. So he articulated asr, and he prayed salatul dhuhr, and he intended dhuhr. He walked into the mosque for dhuhr. Everything was dhuhr, except that he just told somebody, a slip of the tongue, whatever it may be, of salatul asr, or he was on the phone, he said, I'm going to the mosque to pray salatul asr, or he was there and he said salatul asr and then Allahu Akbar. We say his salatul dhuhr counts, because that was his intention. Why? Because the place of intention is in the heart. So intention is very simple. It's to know the action you're going to do, and or to know the result of this action. To know the result of this action. That links to raf al hadath. Then, or the other type of intention is you intend the ibadah. You intend the ibadah. Because most of the time it would be an ibadah that you cannot do without wudhu. And if you intend something that is sunnah to have wudhu for, then many of the fuqaha say your hadath is uplifted. Your hadath is uplifted, even though you intended with the wudhu. Let's say you performed wudhu to go and sleep. Then you went to sleep, you remembered you forgot to pray a salah, or you couldn't sleep and you wanted to get up for tahajjud. So then you say, but I intended for sleeping. And does that do raf al hadath, because I didn't need to remove my hadath for sleeping. The fuqaha say, even though there's some khilaf in the madhab, but we'll go with Sheikh Buhuti says that the hadath is uplifted. The hadath is uplifted. So that has to do with intention and what a person intends. Then the last thing with regards to intention is the time of intention. The time of intention. The fuqaha say that the sunnah time for intention of wudhu is before the first sunnah action. We're going to mention it. It is washing the hands. So there it is sunnah to have your intention in your heart. Some allow scope for softly articulating it before washing your hands. before washing your hands. But it is wajib to have the intention before the first wajib. So the first wajib is to gargle your mouth or nose or face. We're going to mention the fiqh of it just now. But before you do one of those three, you have to have the intention. You have to have the intention. So that would be wajib. So if you didn't have it when you washed your hands, or you did not wash your hands because it was sunnah, so for some other reason, either you left it off or there was a reason to leave it off, and you started with a fard, then you have to have the intention. You have to have the intention by there. So we mentioned sunnah, we mentioned wajib. The third situation is a mubah, is a permissible, a jaiz time for intention. And that is a small period of time before the salah, before the wudhu, a small period of time. So again, it goes back to, we're going to mention with muwala, like in general, what would be a long period, what would be a short period? 20 minutes, 15 minutes, a short period. It would be a long period, but it could be a short period if you got up for the bathroom for wudu and then you were busy with using the toilet or something and then you performed wudu. So that may be deemed a short period of time because you got up for something connected to the wudu. So it just depends on those things. So that short time before the ibadah, in this case wudu, same thing when we mention salah, it will be permissible. It will be permissible. Then the last thing with regards to intention is there are two things, very important things connected to intention, and that is al-istishab. So istishab means that something is at a point. It starts off or it enters, let's say, at this point, and we'll connect it to the wudu just now, the intention, and it must be present throughout the whole thing. So istishab, the thing has a starting point and then it continues. Its presence continues throughout the whole thing that it entered. So here, for example, wudu, your intention for wudu. The fuqaha say that it is a wajib to istishabu hukmiha wa yusan istishabu dhukriha. So they say that it is wajib for a person to have istishab of his intention throughout the wudu. What does that mean? That means a person should not have the intention to break his intention or break his wudu, break his intention throughout the wudu. So he shouldn't have the intention, I'm going to stop wudu while he's performing wudu. The only exception is if he's a person of waswasah. He generally has lots of doubts. Did I not? Did I intend? Did I not intend? This person, no attention he gives to his doubts. So a person of waswasah, he gives no attention to his doubts. So that is istishab al-hukm. So you don't intend to break the wudu. They say it is sunnah to have istishab of the dhukr. You can say dhukr or dhikr. To have istishab that you are cognizant throughout the entire wudu that you are performing wudu. That is sunnah. So it is sunnah, while you are performing wudu, you are cognizant. Let's say we're learning this fiqh. So now a person performs wudu, then he is cognizant through every act of wudu that how am I performing it? So he knows I'm washing my face, am I doing what the sunan, the arms, the masah, etc. Everything, he is cognizant of it. The first situation, he is not cognizant of it, but he didn't intend to break it. That is fine, that is permissible. As long as he did not intend to break it, but it is more virtuous, it is sunnah to be cognizant of the entire ibadah while you are performing the ibadah. So if a person got a call, for example, he begins wudu, he starts his wudu, then he gets a call. So while he's speaking to the person on a call, now that I mentioned the example, we just say, the fuqaha say that it is better, khilaf al-awla. It is khilaf al-awla. It is better not to speak while a person is performing wudu because it's an ibadah. So just like most ibadat, it is not recommended to speak in the ibadah, but it's not an ibadah like salah, for example. So it is permissible to speak. It's not makruh to speak, but it's khilaf al-awla. The exception is dhikr. If a person were to recite Quran or dhikr to himself, many of the fuqaha say those adhkar that have to do with every body part, that's not authentic. So if a person were to do his own dhikr while performing wudu, that is not makruh. So a person is answered the phone, which we said is permissible, but better not to do, but not makruh. So he's busy on the phone, he's speaking to the person, but he's continuing with his wudu. So throughout this, he is performing his wudu. He knows that he's performing his wudu, but his mind, his concentration and attention is on the call. So we say this wudu is valid because he's done istishab of the hukm of wudu, of the hukm of his intention of wudu. He's not broken his intention. So that would be valid. So that has to do with the intention of or wudhu or tahara in general. The Shaykh then mentions the dalil. He says because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that any action is based on the intention, and the person will get in terms of reward depending on his intention, what he intended. Then the Shaykh says ثُمَّ يَقُولُ Bismillah. Then a person says Bismillah. So the Shaykh says after the intention he says, so he articulates. The minimum articulation is a person to slightly have some sound, to almost hear himself, if there was no noise or he was not deaf or something. So that is the mashhur with regards to articulating when doing articulation softly, like in salah or dhikr, etc. That is the minimum. That is the minimum. Below that, it doesn't count. Below that, it doesn't count. To recite Quran, Shaykh Taqiyuddin ibn Taymiyyah, the riwayah thaniya allows just moving the lips, but it would be safer to articulate something. So what you articulate Bismillah. So the Hanbali fuqaha say it is better to stick to Bismillah and not include Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. If one did, that is fine, but generally they say when it comes to the adhkar, a person sticks to them exactly as they are narrated. He sticks to them exactly as they are narrated, so he says Bismillah. This Bismillah in the madhab, it is wajibah. It is wajibah to say Bismillah. So we said other actions are fard. So if you didn't do them, the wudhu is invalid. But Bismillah, we said it's wajib. So this Bismillah that is wajib, if a person forgot it until the end of wudhu, he finished wudhu, then he remembers, I didn't say Bismillah, then you say wudhu is valid. If he remembered during the wudhu, then this is a mas'ala that muntaha and iqna' from the mutaakhirin, they differ. And the madhab, according to Sahib al-Muntaha and the fuqaha, they say that the madhab is if a person remembers Bismillah during wudhu, then he restarts the wudhu because it's a wajib and you can catch up with it and fulfill it. Except that some of the fuqaha say that unless there's a reason that a person should not restart, like the time of salah is going out or he doesn't have enough water, etc., then here he says the Bismillah and he continues. He says the Bismillah and he continues. He does not restart. And the dalil for that is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said there's no wudhu for a person who does not say Bismillah. So this hadith is weak. There are a few ahadith of Bismillah, most of them are weak. But Imam Ahmad says that it's the action of the Sahaba. Umar radiallahu anhu and others from the Sahaba, they were strict on Bismillah. And so Bismillah is wajibah according to the mutaakhirin of the madhab. Then the Shaykh says, وَيَغْسِلُ كَفَّيْهِ ثَلَاثًا. Then the next action that a person does in wudhu is he begins by washing his wrists. He begins by washing his wrists 3 times. So a sunnah in wudhu is to begin with the right side of those body parts that have 2 to it. Except one exception, we'll come to it when we mention it. So with the hands or the arms or the feet, you begin with the right side. Those body parts that are 1, like the head and the face, you do it at the same time. So here with washing the hands, you wash the right hand first 3 times, and then the left hand first, and then the left hand thereafter 3 times. So the Shaykh says 3 times. Let's mention a few Masaa'il to build the rest, to make it easier as we come to them. So the Shaykh says 3. So in wudhu, for the fara'id, you have to do once. You have to do 1 complete washing. That is a fard. Okay? So it is fard to do 1. It is fard to do 1 complete washing. You are allowed to do 1 or 2 or 3. The best is 3, better than that is 2, and 1 is the minimum. A person is allowed without karaha to wash 1 body part more than the other. He's allowed to wash the face once, the arms twice, or his feet 3 times, his feet and arms 3 times, face once or twice. It's permissible, it is not makruh. If a person doubts how many times he's washed his body part, he takes the lesser amount. Except a person of waswasah, he always deems, just like when we mentioned in Sajdatul Sahw, he deems the higher amount. So if he's doubting 2 or 3, he deems it 3, he goes to his next body part. If he's deeming it 1 or 2, he deems it 2, he goes to his next body part. Like that. For a person who has a lot of doubts, he gives no attention to his doubts. In fact, he goes against his doubt. That which shaitan tries to whisper to him to trigger him, he goes against it. He has to fight himself to go to go against it. Even for a person waswasah, some of the fuqaha say that somebody else should be near the person to say that you've already washed your body part 2 or 3 times, carry on, or it's already sufficiently washed, carry on, do not waste water. So somebody being near would help the person with waswasah in performing his wudhu and performing it in a better manner. And more so if the person has ilm, because then the person can guide him that you've washed it exactly, or your washing is done, or this is israaf, or whatever the situation may be. Or he may guide him that this should be washed like this or like that, etc. So that's a few masaa'il with regards to the amount of times. Another thing with regards to the amount of times, the fuqaha say that we say the first washing is wajib. The second one they say is called a fadila. Fadila, in usul they have definitions of what is a fadila. Generally, many times it is below a sunnah. It is below a sunnah. Some of them say it is an action Rasulullah constantly did, but he did not make it public. He did not make it public. Some of the Hanbali fuqaha mention this as well, like similar to some of the Malikiyya. And then the third washing is sunnah. The third washing is sunnah. So hence they have a riddle. Generally, sunnah comes first, then fadila. Sunnah comes first, then a fadila. So they say which ibadah, a fadila comes first and then a sunnah. A fadila comes first and then a sunnah. So they say it is in wudhu here, because the second washing is a fadila. So we say the sunnah is to wash 3 times. The body parts that we're going to say to wash 3 times. The qa'idah is those body parts that you wash 3 times. And those that are wiped, you wipe once. The qa'idah is washing is 3, wiping is 1. So when you wipe your head, your ears, on the khuffain that we're going to mention, if you have a bandage or a lady on her khimar, the wiping is done 1 time. Washing is done 3 times. But that 3 times washing, how? You have to wash the entire body part. You have to wash the entire body part. So even if you're taking scoops of water, handfuls of water on the body, it only counts as 1 until the entire body part is wet. So if you wash the entire body part, let's say your arm, you've washed your entire arm except a space of 5 centimeters, let's say. Then you did your second washing, and now in the second washing you washed your entire body part. Does that count as 2 washings for the entire arm except those 5 centimeters that water touched on the second round? The fuqaha say that that's not the case. Once the entire body part is washed, then it will be 1. So in my example here, it will count as 1 washing, then you wash again, then you wash again. But there are certain situations where it is better to not do 3 times. And that is situations where, for example, the time of salah is almost going out. So if a person were to do wudhu and he were to do 3 washes, then he may miss the time of salah. So here he should do less than 3, 2 or 1. Less than 3, 2 or 1. Or for example, he may miss the jama'ah and there's no other jama'ah coming. Then here it will be sunnah for him to go less than 3. Or it could be wajib, because the madhab says it is wajib to perform salah in jama'ah. So if he's not expecting another jama'ah, he's not expecting a manner to catch the jama'ah, then here he should also do less than 3. Or there's a small amount of water. And if you wash it 3 times, then there won't be enough for the other body parts. Then here you do less than 3, 2 or 1, but a proper washing. Then how do you do? So then to do a proper washing, you do isbagh. Isbagh means to have water trickle on the body part and also to do dalk. So we said you wash. The Shaykh says ثم يغسل. You do يغسل. So ghasl. So you don't do nadh. Nadh doesn't count. Masah doesn't count. You have to do ghasl. And ghasl with dalk is more complete. But the ghasl itself, if the water reaches everywhere, every part of the body part, then that's enough. And to do dalk would be sunnah. If the water doesn't reach, then dalk would be wajib. It doesn't reach part of the body part, dalk would be wajib. So it would be sunnah to do dalk, even if it is not needed. It would be sunnah to do dalk, even if it is not, or it would be sunnah to do dalk if it's not needed. If it's needed, it is wajib. If it's needed, it is wajib. Therefore, the fuqaha say basically 4 things would count as a complete washing. And that is, number 1, you have water washed on your entire arm. Water is poured, ghasl is done on your entire body part. I said arm, but your entire body part. And that is wajib. Then we said ghasl. So the water must kind of trickle up or down, it must trickle. It can't stay in its place. It can't be wiping. You can't take so little water that it doesn't trickle. It must trickle up or down. So that is tasyeel, that is a shart. So you have to do those two things. Then the third one is to do 3 washes, and that is a sunnah. And the fourth one, which some of them call a fadila as well, to complete your entire washing. To complete your entire washing is, we also include dalk. Dalk would be a sunnah as well, to complete what we call mubalagha on the arm. And then the last one is that you use a good amount of water. So a good amount of water to make sure the washing is done, but not an amount. We're going to mention like certain body parts, like the face, you should use a bit more water than you'd use for another body part. A bit more water than you'd use for another body part. But you do use water that would not reach the level of israaf. So israaf is to use too much or more than needed, almost as if you're wasting. And wasting water is makruh. Wasting water for tahara even is makruh. And that would be either that you wash the body part more than it needs, or you wash the part of the body part more than it needs, or you use too much water than the body part needs already. So you wash more than 3 times, it is israaf. Or you've already washed a part of the body part and you continue washing it, that is all called israaf. So you use a decent amount of water to get the previous 3 things done, and that would be a complete perfect washing of the body part in wudhu. That would be a complete washing of the body part in wudhu. Then the next mas'ala, the Shaykh says, ثُمَّ يَتَمَضْمَضْ. Then a person gargles his mouth and then puts water in his nostrils 3 times from 3 handfuls. 3 times from 3 handfuls. So here, thereafter a person washes his face 3 times. So the fuqaha say that the mouth and the nose are part of the face. The mouth and the nose are part of the face. So when Allah says in the Quran that فَغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ, that when you perform wudu, wash your face, that includes the face and the mouth. They are deemed part of the face, because Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, whenever he did wudu, he gargled his mouth and washed his nose, and he rinsed his nose. They say it is part of the face. It's part of the outer body. That's why in salah, in sajda to sahwi, we mentioned that if a person were to put something in his mouth, it would not be deemed eating until he swallows. The same thing with fasting. If a person puts something in his mouth without swallowing, his fast is valid still, because the face, the mouth and the nose are part of the outer body. They're part of the outer body. So when they're part of the face, then the fuqaha say that it is fard. It is a fard to gargle the mouth and wash the nostrils, as we mentioned, and rinse the nostrils. And also, since they are part of the face, if you wash the face before them, or you did your mouth and your nostrils, your wudu is valid. Or you did your nostrils before your mouth, is valid. Whichever order you did these 3, it is valid. But the sunnah is to do mouth and nose before the face. And the sunnah of that is to do mouth before the nose. So there's a few sunnah there. And then, so the minimum amount of doing madmada is to gargle the mouth. The minimum amount is to put water in your mouth and to swirl it around a little bit. Merely swirling it covers madmada. The fard is done. Then you can spit or swallow. And the minimum amount of water in your nostrils is to just slightly sniff it in. So not wetting your finger and placing it at the nostril, or wetting. You don't need to use a finger or something to get water there. You can use a tissue, cloth, anything to get water. But putting water at the tip of your nostrils doesn't count. You have to sniff slightly. Especially if somebody has allergies or they sneeze or have difficulties, then a slight sniffing would do the job. So that's the minimum that would count as the fard. But the sunnah is to do mubalagha, is to do a complete washing of the mouth and the nose, And this mubalagha is sunnah for somebody who is not fasting. Because if a person is fasting, then he could swallow some water or get some water going into his inside from his nose, and that would break his fast. It wouldn't break his fast, but it could threaten breaking his fast. It wouldn't break his fast because it's not intentional, but it's makruh. It is makruh to do mubalagha for somebody fasting. But mubalagha of other body parts, of the rest of the body, is sunnah for a person fasting or not fasting, in ihram or not ihram, in all situations. And that is to do dalk, of that flowing water, to do dalk. That is mubalagha. That would be the sunnah. That would complete your washing. We mentioned it just now, and I indicated to the dalk. So that's why we mention it here. So therefore, what will be mubalagha in the mouth and the nose? So in the mouth, the fuqaha say, when you put water in the mouth, then you swirl the water throughout your entire mouth. Not too far that you're almost swallowing the water, or like they call it gharghara, or you like almost coughing because you put it so deep, but most of the mouth all of the mouth pretty decently deep, that would count as mubalagha. And the nose, to sniff it up to the end of the soft skin. The end of the soft skin. So it's not too deep, it won't go inside. If you do it correctly, it won't go so deep. It's a slight sniff that it would go just a bit higher, just a bit up into the nose, at the end of the soft skin. That would be istinshaq. So those two are the fard. And then there's a sunnah. And the sunnah of those two, the sunnah would be, as we mentioned, mouth first, then nose. And the sunnah would be to do it with the right hand. So you don't need your hand, you can do anything. You can even use your left hand, but the sunnah would be with your right hand to do it. And then there's a sunnah of the istinshaq, of the water in your nose, and that is called istinthar. That is to kind of basically, like you were to get the water out of your nose by basically kind of blowing the water out of your nose. And then to assist that, you use your left hand. The sunnah is your left hand to assist to assist yourself in getting the water and whatever else out of your nose. So that is called istinthar. So when you sniff the water in, then you blow it out and you put your left hand, a couple of fingers of your left hand on your nose to kind of help you to blow and clean your nose out. Then the last sunnah, or the last mas'ala with regards to madmada and istinshaq, and that is the manner of doing it. So the sunnah manner of doing madmada and istinshaq, the fuqaha say you can do it from 6 handfuls of water, meaning mouth and nose in total, or 3 or 1. They say the last best is to do it from 6. How would you do from 6? A handful of water for your madmada, spit out, handful of water for madmada, spit out into your mouth, and the third time into your mouth and spit out. Then your nose, istinshaq and istinthar, sniffing it in, blowing it out 3 times. You do it like that. They say that is permissible, it's fine, it's correct, but it's the least best option. Then the second best option is to do it through 3 handfuls, and the best is to do it through 1 handful. In the manner I'm going to explain. The fuqaha say you do it through 1 because most of the ahadith, in terms of authenticity, and most narrations mention 1 handful. And they say if you can achieve the isbagh of madmada and istinshaq in 1 handful, that would be even better, because then you are not using too much of water. But they say in amkana al-isbagh, if you are able to do the isbagh with 1 handful, then that is best. Otherwise you do it with 3 handfuls. So how would you do this madmada and istinshaq? So they say when you do it with 1 handful, then you do madmada, gargle your mouth once, twice, thrice, then you go to your nose once, twice, thrice with istinshaq and istinthar. That would be the best to do it. And if you do it out of 3 handfuls, then you take your first water, madmada, spit out, istinshaq, spit out, blow out the istinthar. Then you take another handful, madmada and istinshaq, madmada first, then istinshaq, then your third handful, madmada and istinshaq. And this manner of mouth and nose, then again mouth and nose, then again mouth and nose, it's permissible to do it in that manner with 1 handful of water. Some of the fuqaha mention that is how you do it with 1 handful, but most of them say the first manner, where you do madmada, then istinshaq, meaning istinshaq and istinthar. And if you were to do it madmada and istinshaq, meaning from the 1 handful, and then again madmada and istinshaq, then again madmada and istinshaq from 1 handful, that is fine. That is fine to do so. Another mas'ala that came to my mind, and that is when you do the madmada, it is sunnah to use the miswaak. To use the miswaak. So the fuqaha say that with regards to the miswaak, that it is sunnah to use the miswaak in wudhu, because Rasulullah said that had I not feared to cause difficulty for my ummah, I would have commanded them to use the miswaak, in some narrations, with every wudu. So the Hanbali fuqaha deem using the miswaak as cleaning, but not cleaning in terms of more purity, but cleaning in terms of removing something that is more like a person doesn't want it. So cleaning on that angle. That's why they say you use the left hand. They say you use the left hand for the miswaak. Then when you use the miswaak, where do you use it in wudu? So here the fuqaha say عند المضمضة. Some of them phrase it حال المضمضة. You do it while doing madmada. So the clearest explanation I've come across with precisely explaining how to do the miswaak, the siwak in wudu, is that you use the miswaak. They say some of the mutaakhirin mention وَالْمَاءُ فِي فِيهِ. وَالْمَاءُ بِفِيهِ وَالْمَاءُ بِفِيهِ. That when a person does the madmada, so he gargled his mouth, while the water is in his mouth, then here he does the siwak. He does the siwak and then spits out. So while the water is in his mouth, he does the miswaak. So every time through the madmada. So 3 madmada, 3 times he does the siwak. That will be complete sunnah for using the miswaak. Then for using the miswaak, they mention you use the miswaak from right, you do it on the right side of your mouth first. So they say from your front tooth to the molar on the right side, to the back teeth, your molars, and then you do it on your left, from the front to the back. Some of them say you could actually do it from molar to molar, right to left. So not from the middle of the right to the molars of the right, and then middle of the left to the molars of the left. They say you do it from molar of the right to the molar of the left. Both are permissible, but most mention front teeth to the adras, to the molars at the back. There's one mas'ala, and that is, do you do the upper left before the bottom right? This mas'ala I don't recall coming across something from the fuqaha, but if we take it from the way they phrase it, they say janib al-fam al-ayman, then perhaps wallahu a'lam that you do the upper right, then bottom right, then upper left and bottom left. If you do it like that, you've done the right side of your mouth, then the left side. And that is if we're saying the front tooth, middle front to the molars. If we say molar to molar, then you do the entire upper and then the entire left and then the entire lower. So that would be with regards to the siwak. Then the next mas'ala, the Shaykh says ثُمَّ يَغْسِلُ وَجْهَهُ ثَلَاثًا. Then a person washes his face 3 times. He washes his face 3 times. So now, what is the portion of the face to wash? So the fuqaha say that the face, not the definition, but the dimensions of the face, not of washing, but the dimensions of the face. Why is this important to know? Because in other Masaa'il it connects to knowing the face. Like we at the end of Fiqh, when they mention in the chapter of jinayat, if you were to injure somebody, to hurt somebody, you hurt them in the head or in the face, at which point, certain points, you have to know which is deemed the face and which is deemed the head, to know how much of a penalty they should pay. So you need to know where is the face. And where do the fuqaha describe the face and describe the head? Not in that chapter. Here in wudhu. So that's why fiqh connects. Fiqh connects. You have to know the entire fiqh to know fiqh. You have to know the entire fiqh to know fiqh. Not just one chapter or a few chapters to be a faqih. You have to know the entire fiqh. So here they say that the dimension of the face from top to bottom is a person with a normal hairline. A person with a normal hairline, not a person with a hairline that that's very high or very low. A normal hairline until the chin, including the jawbones. The jawbones, that is the face dimensions from top to bottom. And from right to left or left to right, it's basically from just before the earlobe, earlobe to earlobe, or just before. That is deemed the face, not what you wash. What you wash, it's coming now. We're going to mention it. So that is deemed the face. So then there are hairs. There are hairs that are just like around your sideburns, like just in line with your earlobe. There's a bit of hair on top of it going up to the middle of a person's hairline. So those hairs, there's hairs that come out at the temples and then just below and just above it. Those hairs are deemed as part of the head. So we're going to mention just now that will mean they are obligatory to do to wipe on in wudhu, and you don't need to wash them with the face. So just above the sideburns, those hairs, like if you almost to draw like a direct circle from like your earlobes, just in front of it, like an oval, like half an oval, then that would be like the face. That would almost be like the face. Then the hairs that would fall on that line you've drawn, that would be part of the head. That would be part of the head, almost like that. So just the hair on your temples, just in front of that, there's a hair just on top of that, and just below that, just in line with your earlobes, just above that, those hairs are part of the head. So your face, you have to wash it 3 times. And it is sunnah to take more water for the face, because there's more places to make sure water reaches in the face. So around the nose area, around the eye area, especially Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the hadith in Abu Dawood, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would specifically make sure water reaches in between his nose and his eyes. In between his nose and his eyes, because sometimes dirt comes there, especially when one wakes up, especially after one wakes up. So you use more water to make sure water reaches everywhere and properly, and one does dalk to make sure water reaches everywhere of the face, And then when it comes to the face, there's hairs on the face. So the fuqaha say there's basically 3 types of hair. So there's hair that through which you can see the skin. Those hairs in wudhu, as well as ghusl, but we're speaking of wudhu, it is obligatory to wash the skin beneath the hair. So the hair as well, the hair will naturally be washed as well, but it is obligatory to wash the skin as well as the hair. The hair will be naturally washed as well, but you have to wash the skin beneath the hair. Then number 2, hairs on the face, whether it is the beard, whether it is the moustache, whether it be the eyebrows, whether it be the hair under the lower lip, they call it anfaqa, whether it is the hairs on the cheeks, etc., cheekbones, etc. The hairs on the face, if you cannot see through the hairs on the face, then here you do takhleel. Then here it is sunnah to do takhleel of those hairs, to wipe a wet hand or wet fingers through the hair. We'll mention the method now. And the third type of hair is al-mustarsal. So that is hairs that start growing on the dimensions of the face, and they prolong beyond the dimensions of the face, like the beard. The same thing we're going to mention of the hair on the head, that a person with long hair, his hair will go beyond the dimensions of the head. So that will have a rule. The same with the face. So the fuqaha say that those hairs that are beyond the dimension of the face, it is obligatory to wash. It is obligatory to wash the outer of that hair. So the hairs that you cannot see through the skin, I'm going back now, I forgot to mention it. The hair that you do not see the skin beneath, it is obligatory to wash the outer of the hair. That hair that you cannot see the skin through it, along with that skin, that hair that is beyond the dimension of the face, it is obligatory to wash the outer of the hair. The inner of the hair, it is sunnah to wipe it, to do takhleel, to pass a wet hand in it. And it is makruh to wash the hair, the insides of the hair. So the outer part of the hair is the hair that you can see. Then you go inside it, then there it is makruh to wash it. It is sunnah to do takhleel. And then the skin beneath it, there you don't wash. If it's makruh to wash the hair, then beneath the hair, the skin, that is more makruh. So therefore, you do takhleel of those hairs. It is sunnah to do takhleel of those hairs under which you cannot see the skin. But it is obligatory to wash the out of the hairs that you cannot see the skin, along with that hairs that go beyond the dimension of the face. So takhleel, the amount of times for takhleel and the times for takhleel, Allahu a'lam, but it seems from the way the fuqaha phrase it, it seems that you wash it, that you do takhleel 3 times. So with each washing, you do takhleel. With each washing, to complete the washing, so of the hairs, you don't do dalk, so you do takhleel. It's as if it's in the place of dalk. So to complete the washing, to have it a tick of 1 complete washing, you do takhleel. That would mean you do takhleel 3 times, and the time of the takhleel of the face, also you're going to have takhleel of the fingers and takhleel of the toes, is at the time of washing it. So at the time of washing the fingers, in the first washing you do takhleel, second washing takhleel, third washing takhleel to complete it. But 1 is enough. 1 is enough, but 3 is complete, as we mentioned with the other aspects. Except the takhleel is not obligatory. It's not obligatory if water reaches those places. That's why the fuqaha say that takhleel is more emphasized for the feet, because the feet are close, for the toes, because the toes are close to each other. The fingers, they have spaces in between, so water will go through. So for the beard, most of the mutaakhirin say that you take a handful of water. So you've washed your face. Then you take a handful of water, and you take the handful of water and you pass it underneath your chin to the inside of the hairs underneath your chin. Or you take that handful of water and you kind of massage it to the inside of the hairs on the sides of your beard. The way they phrase it, they're actually saying either the bottom or the sides. So they mention it like that. Allahu a'lam. There's a third method some of the fuqaha mention, and that is like you kind of pass your fingers like a comb through your beard, the bottom and the sides of your beard. So most of the mutaakhirin say you take a handful of water. But Burhanuddin ibn Muflih, he says that you actually wash it with the hair of your face, or with the water of your face. So as you have washed your face, then as you are completing the washing, then you can pass your hands, massaging it kind of to the insides of your hair on the sides and or the bottom. And he says وَقِيلَ بِالْمَاءِ الْجَدِيدِ. And he says it is said, some of the fuqaha say that you take more water. So he's kind of in reverse. He's kind of saying that the original method of takhleel is with the remaining water on your face. And some of the fuqaha say you take a handful of water. But most of the mutaakhirin say you take a handful of water to do takhleel. So wallahu alam, but both go. The scope for both. Then the next mas'ala, the Shaykh says that you wash your face 3 times and your arms until your elbows 3 times. Then your arms until your elbows 3 times. So the method of washing the arm is from the tips of your fingers. So not from your wrist. That washing was sunnah. Now you wash your arms. So when you wash your arms, then you have to do the entire arm. Because your wrist and your forearm in Arabic is called yad. And your wrist, your forearm, and the part between your shoulder and elbow is called yad. So it's all called yad. It's all called the arm kind of. But you don't call the forearm yad, or you don't call the forearm and the part between your elbow and your shoulder yad in Arabic. The palm has to be included for it to be called yad. And the ayah says to wash your yad, aydikum, your yad. So therefore you wash from the tips of your fingers. In fact, from the tips of your nails. If your nails are long, you have to wash from there until your elbows, including your elbows. In fact, just beyond, because another sunnah of wudhu is to wash just beyond the body parts, but we'll leave the details of that out. So just beyond, to ensure you've washed your elbow fully, you do just beyond your elbow and from the tip of your finger, or from the tip of your nail. So even if your nail is very long, you have to wash it from the tip of your nail, through your arm. And the fuqaha say that if there is some dirt or some kind of a person has paint, for example, under his nail, something that would block water from penetrating, even under his nail, a small amount is overlooked. A small amount is overlooked beneath his nail, or they say similar to beneath his nails, like inside the nose, or perhaps some of the fuqaha actually mention if you have like food in your mouth and you're doing the madmada, it won't affect the pieces of food stuck in your teeth, etc. It won't affect the madmada. So therefore, that's how you wash the arm. If a person's arm was cut off or a person's foot was cut off, we're going to mention that you wash until your ankles in the same manner that you wash your elbows. Then the fuqaha say if the arm is cut off, then if it is cut off before the elbow, as in to the angle to the side of the hand, then you wash the remainder including the elbow. If it is cut off at the elbow, then you wash the elbow, because the elbow is part of the arm. So you just wash the elbow, but you have to wash it. And if it is cut off beyond the elbow to the side now to your shoulder, then washing that arm falls. But you have to wash even if not the whole or not the entire arm is present, because Rasulullah ﷺ said, if I've commanded you to do something, then do it as far as you can. As much as possible, or as most possible as it is to do the action, you do it. So here you wash the arm or the foot in the same manner for the ankle. If it's broken, cut off of the part of the foot in front of the ankle, meaning to the side of the toes, you wash that part along with the ankle. If only the ankle, then you wash the ankle. If beyond the ankle towards the knee, then the washing of the foot falls. So that's with regards to washing your arms. The next mas'ala, the Shaykh says, then a person, he does masah, he wipes his head from the front part of his head to just above the neck, and then he brings his hands forward again to the place where he began wiping from. He does this one time, because we mentioned the Qaaidah of wiping is that you do one time. So first the Shaykh says masah, that you do masah. So that means you wet the hands, and then the water, you don't keep water in, like it's just wetting the hand. Or if you have water in, like a puddle of water in your hand, then you drop it, you release it. So it's just a wet hand. So the Shaykh says masah. So if a person did a level higher than masah of nadh or ghasl, would it count? The madhab says no. In fact, I'm thinking Sahib al-Muntaha says it will count, but I think Buhuti in Sharh al-Muntaha, he mentions that he makes ta'qib of that, saying that it won't count, just like how Iqna' says. So Wallahu a'lam, the madhab is that it will not count. It will not count to wash. So they say if you were to wash your head, it's fine, or you were to have water on it, it is fine. If you've done the action of passing the hand over, you have to wipe. You have to wipe. If the hair is wet already, you have to wipe. So if you've washed your hair, then you have to wipe. You have to wipe. So just having your hair washed would not count. Would not count. So you have to do the action of wiping. Then the wiping, it can be done with anything. You don't need to use your hands. The sunnah would be to use your hands, but if you were to use a cloth or anything, it will count. It will count. And the manner to do it, any way that you wipe, the wajib would be fulfilled. Any method that you wipe your head, the wajib will be fulfilled. But the fuqaha say that you have to wipe your entire head. So even those hairs that we mentioned are part of the head, all of it has to be washed. And that is majority of the fuqaha of the madhab say the entire head, no exception. But Sheikh Alauddin al-Mardawi, he says that out of difficulty, sometimes it's not easy to ensure every part of the head is washed. So he says that it's okay if there is a small amount that is left out of difficulty. So meaning a person wiped his head, he tried to do his entire head, perhaps he missed a part. It will be overlooked. And the wudhu would be correct. So before we mention the sunnah method of wiping, we mention another one or two masaa'il. The Shaykh says that you begin at the top of your head, and that is where the face ends. Where the face ends, there at that hairline, a person at a normal hairline. So even if a person's hairline is not normal, he's getting bald or something, or his hairline is towards his face, it's low, you don't start there. You start at where a general hairline would be. You start wiping there until the end, until just before the neck. Therefore, the hair that is beyond, if a person has a long hair, a hair that is beyond the neck, that does not need to be wiped. So unlike the face, that hair that's called the mustarsal, that hair that is beyond the face, that has to be washed, the outer of it. The hair, no. So a person just wipes, male and female, a person just wipes until that. That's why the fuqaha mentioned that if a person were to have long hair and he ties his hair, so the bottom of his hair is now on his ras, on his place of hair, place of his head that he should wipe, and he wipes over that part of his head, it won't count. Even though some of the fuqaha, it may be I think it is khallal, it may be khallal, from the mutaqaddimin jiddan, from the mutaqaddimin of the ashab of Imam Ahmed. He actually says that the madhab of Imam Ahmed is that it's sufficient to do mash of the top of the head for a lady or somebody with long hair. But it would be safer to do mash of the entire hair, and that is the actual part of the hair that is on the part that you have to wipe. And the fuqaha say the wiping is for the hair, not the head. So that is, if a person has hair, he has to wipe the hair. If he puts his hand underneath his hair to wipe the head, the skin, he wipes his skin, it will not count. And the wajib is to wipe the entire head to pass the hands from the front to the back once. Going back is a sunnah. And however you pass the hand, it is fine. Some person may have styled his hair or something, so he doesn't want to mess his style up, or a person has long hair or something, so he doesn't need to go front to back. He can go from the middle to the front and the middle to the back, or he can go back to front, he can go from the side, anyway, as long as he's wiped his entire head. But the complete sunnah would be, if we follow the sunnah, we'll wipe the entire head. So the fuqaha say you use your hands, okay? So you wet your hands, then you put your forefinger, tip of it of one hand on the tip of the forefinger of the other hand, and then you put your thumbs on your temples, that hair on your temples, basically your sudrain, and then you pass the hand, so your forefingers are like this basically, and your thumbs are basically on your temples like this, so you have it like this, and then you pass it to the back, and then back to the front. And if you did it in that manner, especially with the thumbs, then you'd have done mash of the entire head. You would have done mash of the entire head correctly. So you pass your entire hand through to the back, and then you pass it through to the front. So that is actually, you've passed back and forth. And we said the mish is done, wiping is done one time of things that you wipe. And that is because when you passed it from the front to the back, you've basically wiped one side of your hair. And then when you passed it from the bottom to from the back, when you passed front to back, you did it of one side and of your hair, and when you did back to front, you did the other side of your hair. So you basically wiped different sides. So each one was wiped once. Each one was wiped once. So that therefore our qaida of washing being 3 and wiping being 1 stays intact. Then the next action that you do in wudu is to wipe your ears. So the madhab is that it is obligatory to wipe your ears. It is obligatory to wipe your ears, the front and the back of your ears. The front and the back of your ears, it's obligatory to wipe it, because the hadith says the ears are from a part of the head. So they are part of the head. They take the rule of being part of the head, not literally. They take the rule of being part of the head. So they have to be wiped, and all of it be wiped. We can say just like the head, a small amount not being wiped could be overlooked. Let's say a lady has an earring, so she forgot to take it out, and she prayed many salah. Then we can say it's overlooked because of what we just mentioned of murdawi connecting it to the head. But otherwise, since you have to wipe the entire part of your ear, then you remove the earring. But you do not need to ensure that, like an earring hole, you do not need to ensure that water is going to be inside of it or something, because you're just doing you're doing of the outer. And for ghusl, you have to make sure the water is gone nicely to penetrate, as long as you won't get harmed. But in wudu, no need. You just wipe it on the outer, and you do it in the manner I'm going to mention. So there's a few sunnah to wiping the ears, and that is one, to take new water, to take more water. After you've wiped your head, then again you wet your hands. Again you wet your hands or your fingers for the wiping of your ears. Then how do you wipe your ears? Any method to wipe your ears, the front and back, along with the white that is behind the ears, that is part of the ears, and just above it is part of the ears, not part of the head. So, but essentially it has to be wiped essentially. So whether it was wiped with the head, it suffices. So basically, if you just wet your palms, and then you just passed it on the front and the back like that, your front and back, that counts. The mash of the head is done. But the sunnah would be to do the following. Here it's mash. So the qaida is that like the head, we said the head, I don't think I mentioned the qaida of mash, but do you do the right one first and then the left one, and then the left one? Sahib al-Iqna' says you do it. And actually there's tahqiq of this mas'ala based on what Zarkashi says, who Sahib al-Iqna' quotes, but because of the time I won't mention it currently. But the tahqiq, Allahu A'lam, is that for the ears, you do not wipe the right one first and then the left. So you do it together. It's part of the head, like how you do the same for the head together. And also when you wipe other body parts like the khuffain, you do them together. But if for some reason you were to do one before the other of the khuffain or the ears, like a person has his left hand is injured or cut off, or he's busy holding something, whatever it may be, so then he's doing one at a time, then here you begin with the right. And that's actually what Zarkashi says in Sahib al-Iqna' and others quote. Zarkashi says that you begin with the right if you were to do one of them first. إِذَا بَدَأَ I think he says بِإِحْدَاهُمَا. Then you do the right first. The same with the khuf. Then you do the right first. So the sunnah would be that you take your fingertips of your forefinger and you place it in basically right on the edges of the eardrum, and your thumbs behind. So you basically, it's almost like this, like your hands are straight because you have to wipe the entire ear. And then while your fingers are in the eardrums, you're passing the two fingers up towards the top. So you're basically passing it upwards. So the back of your ears are wiped with the thumb completely, both sides. The sides of your ear and connected to your head will be wiped. And as you go up, because your pointy fingers, the tips of your forefingers are in by your eardrums, then the sides of the finger would have wiped the outer of your ear, So you don't need to, it's not obligatory to wipe inside like the cartilage, etc. Just the outer, that would be enough. And Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, when he narrates the wudhu of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he says Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam put his fingers in his eardrums. He put his finger in his eardrums and the thumbs behind, and he did it in the manner that similar to the manner I explained. Then the last mas'ala with regards to the men of wudu, and that is the Shaykh says, then you wash your feet, including the ankles, in the same manner we mentioned the elbows, and you do it 3 times. So you wash your feet 3 times, and there you do takhleel. So the method with each washing, as we mentioned earlier, and you do takhleel. But the method of doing takhleel, they say بخنصر من خنصر إلى خنصر, that you do it with the baby finger, your small finger of your left hand. And then because they say that when you wash your feet, when you do dalk, you use your left hand. So you don't use the right hand. Use the right hand if you're going to pour water, but to touch your foot, you use the left hand. So now for takhleel, you use your fingers of your left hand, and they say the smallest finger because that will be the best one to go between your toes. Then you start with the baby toe of your right foot to the big toe, and then for your left foot from your big toe to the baby toe. So you've done right to left. That would be the sunnah method of doing takhleel. And the fuqaha say you do it from beneath the foot. So you don't do takhleel from the upper side, like you do it from basically the sole of your foot. You put your finger from the sole of your foot, and then you do takhleel from there. They say asfal al-rijl and batin al-rijl. So in fact, outside of the Hanbali madhab, Ibn Abidin, the Hanafi madhab have the same mas'ala. So he questions when they say from underneath the foot, are you doing it from underneath and then you're doing takhleel from the base of your toes upwards to the tip of your toes, or tip of the toe underneath? Because the way the fuqaha phrase it in both madhab, it holds both, and that's what he points out. He says it holds both. The Hanbali madhab doesn't specify further, so you can do it either way. But from the beneath the foot, from the underside of the foot, you were to do the takhleel. That would be the sunnah. Then the Shaykh says this is the complete wudu that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did. Then he says, in fact, thereafter it is sunnah to recite the dua in Muslim. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever performs wudu, and then he recites ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh, then 8 doors of Jannah open for him, and he can enter through whichever one he wishes. But the fuqaha say included in this is that you raise your eyes to the sky. That comes in some of the ahadith, and some of them say you raise your face as well. So you raise your face as well towards the sky, even if you are underneath a roof. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did it like that when he got up for qiyamul layl in the Sahih. Even though there was a roof, he looked upwards. And then you recite that dua along with in the Sunan. You read Allahumma ja'alni min at-tawwabin aw ja'alni min al-mutatahhirin. That would be the complete wudu. And then the Shaykh says the fard of that is the wudu is to wash each body part once, as we mentioned. And then he also says that you do them in sequence. You have to do them in sequence. So face first, including mouth and nose, as we mentioned. But those do not need sequence because they're one body part. But face first, then arms, then head, and then feet. So you have to do it in sequence. If you did arms first, then face, it doesn't count. The face will count, then you have to wash the arms again. That's why the fuqaha say that if a person were to jump in water and then jump out, then it would not count. It would not count. Because he needs sequence. If he were to be under like a shower, the water, how would he perform wudu there if he doesn't do the actions of wudu? He'd have to wait for the water, like 4 seconds almost, for water to flow on him. And the first flowing, it would be intended on his head. And then his arms, if it washed the complete arm. Right or left is a sunnah to do one first. They can be done together, or left first then right. Sunnah is right then left. Thereafter his head, but he has to wipe his hands, and then his feet, and then his feet, and then his feet. And they have a few Masaa'il connected to that. We'll mention it another time. And that is because of the sequence Allah mentioned it. Also, Allah mentioned that He mentioned things that you wash. And in the midst of that, He mentioned وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ, wipe your heads. So the fuqaha say that it's not from eloquence that Allah or a person is referring to similar things and He separates them with something different. So here Allah is referring to wash things that are being washed, but in the middle He includes wiping. So it's not from eloquence to include something that's not from a group into the group unless there's a reason for it. And they say it is to indicate that you have to perform wudu according to sequence. There's also another interesting manner to deduce this from the Arabic of the ayah, but we'll mention it another time inshallah. Because Allah says, in fact, let's mention it. Because Allah says, فَغْسِلُوا, that now after you've stood up for the salah, إِذَا قُمْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ فَغْسِلُوا, perform wudu. And that fa indicates the sequence, but sequence one after the other. And then Allah uses the the letter wa with the body parts. So they say this wa is connected to the fa, and the fa is for sequence. So that means that all the body parts, since they are connected to each other with the waw, they connect to the fa, and the fa is for sequence. So I hope that is understood. That was explained very quickly, but that also indicates sequence. And then the last one, the Shaykh says وَأَلَّا يَفْصِلْ بَيْنَهُمَا بِفَاصِلٍ كَثِيرٍ عُرْفًا بحيث لا ينبني بعضه على بعض وكذا كل ما اشترطت له الموالاة. So the Shaykh says the last stipulation, the last farad of wudu is that you do the actions one after the other, without a gap, without a long gap that would break the sequence. And what is this long gap? The Shaykh says urfan. That is the trend of the Hanbali fuqaha. So basically, what would generally be deemed as a long gap. So almost as if somebody were to see you, and he would not assume you're performing wudu, because you washed your face, then you did something else, and then you came back, then you did your arms. A person would think this guy is just washing his arm, and then he goes back. Why is he? He's just passing his head over. Maybe there's something on his head, that's why he passed it over, because he has such a long gap. But otherwise, if there's a short gap, then that would not break the sequence of wudu. And that is also the proof of that. Before we mention another mas'ala connected to that, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam saw a person who performed wudu, and then he left a small portion of his heel not washed. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam told him to repeat his wudu. He didn't say just go and wash that part, because there was a long gap in between. So the Shaykh says every ibadah that you need to have sequence, they need to be after each other. If they are broken with a gap that in general would be deemed too long, in general. So sometimes certain situations at ibadah 2 minutes, certain 5, certain times 10, according to each one on its situation. Sometimes it would be deemed like in wudu, somebody would assume you're not performing wudu. That would break sequence. And when a sequence is a stipulation in the ibadah, then if that time length was found, that breakage or that period of time in the ibadah, then the ibadah would be invalid. So those two are the added fara'id compared to along with the 4 fara'id we mentioned of face, along with mouth and nose, arms, mash of the head and ears, and then the feet. The last mas'ala we'll mention is that what constitutes, what does not break muwala, which is sequence, even though it's a long period of time. They say somebody who has waswasah, if he's trying to make sure he doesn't be falling into waswasah by giving a period of time between his washing, it won't break muwala. Another situation, if a person was busy with something that is sunnah, like takhleel, or like takhleel of his hands or his beard, or siwaak, and there was a long period, maybe he was trying to get something out of his tooth or something, then we say it does not break muwala. Or if a person is removing impurity, but removing impurity on his body part, and this impurity would block the water from going on the skin. So then he's washed his face, and then he realized there's something, impurity or something is stopping water on his arm, so he's trying to remove it. And that took a few minutes extra. We say it doesn't break muwala. But if that thing was on another body part, and he was busy removing it, he saw it on his knee, and then he started removing it, then he returned to his body part he needed to wash in wudu, we say the muwala is broken. Muwala is broken. So those are some of the main masaa'il connected to this chapter. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to teach us that which benefits us, and benefit us with that which He teaches us. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.